Hello everyone, welcome to the UFC Vegas 111, aka UFC Apex 111, aka UFC Fight Night Bonfim versus Brown recap, and went 7-5 of the night in terms of picks, so not great, not terrible, but, it is what it is. And there's really no caveats, actually, for the losses, because, to be honest, there were no bad decisions, there were no oddities to go on, it was just flat out being wrong in all 5 cases. Denise Gomes went out there and performed really, really well. Hani Barcelos did as well. Jamal Emmers. Okay, the Emmers Emil one has a thing, but I don't think it excuses it. But I do think Emil was injured either coming into the fight or during the fight in a relatively serious manner. That being said, he got outperformed by Emmers, and Emmers seemed to be, actually putting stuff together. So 2 thumbs up. I actually really like Jamal Emmers and hope he does put something together. And then Chris Padilla beat Ismail Bonfim, and Uros Medic knocked out Muslim Salkov, and those were my 5 losses. So let's dive into this. Let's get into the fights. We have Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown in the main event, and this was a really good performance by Gabriel Bonfim. It's also one that I think is more of an indictment on Randy Brown than it is maybe a endorsement of Bonfim. Bonfim came out and he had a very heavy low kick game plan, which we have seen work before against Randy Brown. So, smart, good, great so far. Something he's good at, something he can make happen. And he quickly compromised the lead leg of Brown. Now, Brown did have some moments of success when he would go forward and kind of make it more of a brawl, for lack of a better term. More messy, more boxing centric, more what Bonfim has historically had some level of issue with, but not like dominant anyways. Bonfim landed some good counters, he had some good defenses, and he was able to disengage, get back to kicking, get back to jabbing, and generally speaking, had a very solid performance. It's just that at the same time, Randy Brown showed once again that despite being a massive dude for the weight class, 6'3", 78-inch reach, he has a remarkable lack of ability to actually leverage that on a consistent basis into success. And Bonfim was able to win the phase of the fight that realistically no one should be winning against Randy Brown, but people are doing so. And then the finish comes in the second round. Bonfim is in the clinch with Brown very, very briefly, lands a good hard knee, sends him down like a sack of potatoes. He hits the ground. Brown wakes up, but the referee is already coming to stop it. I get that this is a controversial stoppage to a certain degree because he did wake up, but at the same time, he was definitively out, I think, when referee Mark Smith went to actually stop the fight. Like, to the point where, like, even Dominic Cruz, a famous let them die commentator, was actually pretty defensive of the stoppage. Now, it wasn't Keith Peterson. If it was Keith Peterson, I'm sure he would have changed his mind. But I think it's a very, very defensible stoppage, even if there is a legitimate gripe. And I don't want to say that the fight seemed decided or anything, because it wasn't. But Brown doesn't do well when he has to continuously pressure. And that was what he was going to have to do. Basically utilize pressure to make this a boxing fight and smother the kicking game of Bonfim. And I just don't think that it's something that I don't think I've ever seen him really kind of do. I'm actually kind of curious, who's the best low kicker range fighter we've ever seen Randy Brown beat? And I think the answer is probably like Elizeu Zaleski, who just kind of panicked and turned into basically a wrestler. If you don't recall that fight, Zaleski's like shooting 7 takedowns, 5 minutes plus of top control, 4 takedowns, and just generally becomes very, very low output. So not a great example, even though he is that guy who should be exploiting that. And then also knocked out Muslim Salkov. We'll talk about him in a bit. But aside from that, it's a very meh fight with Francisco Trinaldo, I guess. That's about it. Everyone else here is just not really a kicker. And for comparison, Vicente Luque weaponized the kicking game against him quite heavily. Brian Battle had some success with that as well. And now Gabriel Bonfim. So, like, I think there's a definitive problem that Randy Brown has to at some point address here as far as his ability to defend the low kicks. And it's a classic kind of like tall man issue, really. Neil Magny has basically the same problem. And I don't really have much else to say. I don't know if I really up Bonfim's stock in any way. It's a good win on paper. It's a fantastic win. It's a fantastic win on paper. But I don't know if it really changes my perspective of him as a fighter. That being said, he's still very, very dangerous. And the fear I had when he came into the UFC, ironically, is manifesting in his brother and not in him. Which was that I kind of thought he was like an athlete bully type fighter. But he's shown an ability to actually problem solve and to, like, take pushback. So that's not new to this fight, but that's just a general notice that I do rate him quite highly. It's just I don't know if this fight in particular leads to any improvement. Speaking of which, Matt Schnell versus Bobo Joseph Morales. Morales was getting outstruck, outboxed early. Not like badly, not like, oh my god, he needs a takedown now sort of thing. But he was getting worked a little bit on the feet. And then he crashed the clinch. Schnell took him down, which was weird. And we turned out to be a massive mistake. Morales out-scrambled him, gets to side control, even uses a beautiful like Kimura to open things up and take the crucifix. And then he basically just bait Schnell into turning into a guillotine choke and gets a tap out. So a phenomenal display of grappling from Bobo Morales. It's just that against Matt Schnell, I don't think Matt Schnell's heart is in the game at this point. And that is essentially it. Because like this fight is a series of bad mistakes by Schnell. Granted, to a certain degree, forced by Morales. Morales did crash the clinch to force the takedown. Morales did take the crucifix. Morales did bait him to turn into him and get guillotined, so it's all there. But I also think that Schnell, I don't want to say gave up or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far. But Schnell looks like a fighter who, well, has retired 2 or 3 times at this point. And that's kind of really all there is to it. I do hope, I know Jalen Turner's coming back in a bit. And I do legitimately hope that he looks better than Matt Schnell with the unretirement fight. So I don't know if this means much for Morales realistically. It's just a fight that I'm taking people to win as long as they have a functional game. Like Schnell beat Jimmy Flick, but Flick is really, really not functional. So it's kind of really all there is to that one. 2 thumbs up. Good job. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if this means anything going forward. Morales is a quality grappler. He has mid-division ability for sure. He'll be in the UFC, I think, for quite some time. I just don't know if there's really a lot of upward momentum for him as a general rule here. And then I don't have much to say about Uros Medic versus Muslim Salikov. Medic flatlined him and knocked him out, and that's it. I guess the question becomes, is this like Salikov just being old, or is this Medic, being dangerous, or is this both? And I think probably the answer is both. Salikov is old. Medic is dangerous. Medic is a bit of a glass cannon still. I'm going to have a hard time picking him just because of that, but he got the job done today and made me look a little bit foolish. Ishmael Bonfim versus Chris Padilla. This was a fun first round. Bonfim went out there and had some solutions. Padilla had some good stuff too. Don't get me wrong. He was out there. He was outlanding him. He was pressing the action. He was just getting very hit clean as well. And then in the second round, it's just Bonfim kind of just crumbles. And this was the thing, is I thought his brother would have this problem, not him. Honestly, like real talk here. And instead, there's been a couple of fights where Ishmael has been the one to just kind of fold when things get really kind of rough. Nazim Sadikov stopped it by medical stoppage, but it had kind of that vibe to it. And then obviously the very, very, very troubling fight with Benoit Saint-Denis that he had. Not that losing to Benoit Saint-Denis is a problem, but the manner that he did it and how he felt like, honestly, we have no answers for him was a big problem. So I don't know. And then you add in obviously the 5-pound weight miss for Bonfim, and this is This is a bad look. Padilla gets the W. He asked for a bonus afterwards. Did not get the bonus, at least publicly. Some people are suggesting that, well, Dana probably took care of him behind closed doors. Then you do that before he asked for it. Because, like, you're getting all the negatives of him asking for the bonus and all the negatives of not giving him the bonus. So, this just goes into, like, you know, the classic fighter pay debate that it should be higher. And people will be like, well, they signed on the dotted line. I'm not saying morally it should be higher. I'm not saying boo-hoo for the fighters. I am saying that the UFC low pay is bad for PR. It's bad for legal issues, because, of course, this came up in the antitrust lawsuit. And it is bad for the quality of the sport. And these are three things that really should have some time ago started to transform how fighter pay works. That's all I've got on that matter for now. If I could go on for hours for it, but yeah, it's something I just get really, really tired of people trying to come out and defend, because there's no defense for it. I'm not saying it's a moral issue. I'm saying it's a doing your job as a promoter issue. Anyways, Marco Tulio versus Christian Leroy Duncan. This was fun. This was the fun version of the fight here, because there was a heavy clinch and, like, boring possibility for this fight. But at the end of the day, Tulio just was not up to dealing with the physicality of Christian Leroy Duncan. Duncan was doing a lot of spinning stuff to go from outside to inside very effectively. This is kind of what he does. Tulio was able to get some takedowns. Didn't do really much with them. Did ground Duncan for like a half round there. But yeah, there just wasn't any like solid responses here from Tulio realistically. And it was kind of the thing. People were talking about Tulio as like a really big prospect, and I'm just like, I don't see it. I mean, partially it's the age thing. I really don't like the whole 31-year-old prospect idea. In no other sport would that be a prospect. But yeah, I just thought that the guys he was beating were just physically outmatched, and it's like, here's CLD, a guy who probably is a better athlete than you. What do? And outside of being able to wall him and control him a little bit against the fence and get some takedowns, there wasn't much there. He wasn't able to define the fight by mid-range striking, which is about the only thing I think he could beat Duncan in consistently. So good work by CLD. Really cool finish. He wobbles him with a back fist and falls up to finish the job. So that's cool. CLD can be really, really, really fun. He just also can be really dull. Is kind of the problem. And I don't really think that there's a way to figure out which version you're going to get, because like his fight with Puliev, Andrei Puliev, that should have been really fun, and it was not. It was dominant, but it was not fun. And his fight with Eric Anders, I thought was actually going to like suck the life out of it, and that was fun because he finished him in the first round. He did it, and he did it here again. So it is what it is. He's got a weird style, I guess is what I'm getting at the end of the day. And then we had Jamal Emmers versus Haider Emil, and Haider Emil is a guy who has a lot of physical talent and a lot of solid options in general. I had him winning the first round. He came out aggressive, powerful, etc. But his game is just so much just raw, naked aggression that opens up all kinds of defensive issues for him, and he doesn't really have a way of, like, he's a guy who has two ways to win. Option one, early finish, which I thought he would get, and he did not. Option two, just being like a way better physical specimen than his opponent. And he is a good athlete. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that there's an athletic limitation to him. But in the UFC's lower weight classes, you cannot rely on just being the better athlete than your opponent. It's not an option. And eventually Emmers just kind of takes over this fight. He starts taking him down, putting him on his back. 7 takedowns? 7 takedowns. 7 takedowns out of 8 attempts. Not a ton of control time until basically the third round, but still. And yeah, he just kind of runs out of gas. And like I said, I think he came in injured. What kind of makes me think this is, if you look at the grappling exchanges, when Emil's on bottom, he's grimacing a lot every time Emmers, or just the positional flow, forces him to sort of utilize his hip movement in any way that put like stress on the back or the hips. and he would like, be grimacing in pain and in a way that suggested something was definitively wrong. He's also dry heaving on the steel, which is concerning. But yeah, he's a guy who I think honestly just needs to get to a new gym because he's, I believe, a Gilbert Melendez student, if I'm not tremendously mistaken. Yeah, El Nino Training Center in San Francisco. That gym is not very good. And I say this as a guy who was a big fan of Gilbert Melendez back in the day. I don't think he's producing anything remotely good out of that gym in terms of talent. There are people winning fights, obviously. There are people doing, on paper, good things. But watching the fights, they're all very unrefined fighters. And I think they would almost all be better suited to going somewhere else to achieve some things. So that's my suggestion for a fix. That and don't fight hurt, I guess. But at the same time, it's not like he came out. It's not like a Lucas Almeida situation or even like an Isaac Dolgarian situation where like it appeared right off the bat that they were hurt. No, this could have absolutely been something that happened during the fight. I do like that people are like, nah, he couldn't possibly be injured. He's just bad. And it's like, both of these things can be true at once. Like, I'm not suggesting Hyder Emil was robbed in this fight because he was hurt. I'm just suggesting he was hurt. That's all I'm doing. So that is a weird conversation that is happening on MMA Twitter right now. Ricky Simón versus Ronnie Barcelos. This was a surprising fight and in a good way. I was wrong, but I am very, very happy to be wrong because, my pick was to a degree somewhat disappointing. It was like Ronnie Barcelos is just going to be kind of too old and Simón's going to outpace him and do his thing. And at the end of the day, Simón had the win in the first round, which is bizarre because that was where I thought Barcelos would be at his best, and he just kind of took over. He figured out the striking variables on Simón and was clocking him on the feet, doing a great job. He was able to positionally out-wrestle him. He didn't have any takedowns after the first round, 1 for 8 per UFC stats, but was able to basically nullify Simon's game entirely, and that's pretty cool. It is really cool to see him still doing stuff at 38 years old in the 135-pound division. It's really fun. I don't know if I'm going to particularly pick him in his next fight because I'm still going to be concerned about the whole thing, but it is what it is. I will say that the commentary was talking about both guys having good head movement. Ricky Simón does not have good head movement. He does not have good striking defense, period. He never has. And at 33 years old, I don't suspect he will ever develop it at all. Talking about people who aren't improving. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I said Cavalcanti would win. When I was watching this live, the internet was like trying to prevent me from like actually seeing this fight. The video broke up a number of times in the second and the third round particularly. And as a result, I didn't really see it. And I was just basically, my Twitter posts for it were like, well, from what I saw, Cavalcanti was winning. And if something cool didn't happen, I'm assuming she won because Mayra Bueno Silva is a completely non-functional fighter who requires big moments to actually do something and doesn't really have any way of making them happen. I rewatched the fight and that was indeed the case. Is it going to make me excited about Jacqueline Cavalcanti's next fight? No, not really. Until she fights somebody who has like a range game, I don't think we're actually going to get any kind of like answers. And unfortunately, the issue with women's MMA is there's not a lot of people who actually are going to diffuse, at least at bantamweight, what she's doing. Julia Avila obviously could not. Mayra Bueno Silva could not. Nora Cornole had some answers. And then before that, you have Josie Nunez, who's comically short, and Zara Farm, who is not good. Cavalcanti gets a win, moves one step closer to a title shot, where probably she'll get to a title shot and finally find someone who can actually put some pressure on her and will actually learn some things. She'll probably lose to a Kayla Harrison or something, but there you go. Mayra Bueno Silva is a broken toy. And it's unfortunate because Mayra Bueno Silva has all the physical talents in the world to have been very good. Like, as a broken fighter, she got to a title shot. And there was someone on Twitter who was talking to me about how Mayra Bueno Silva has been ruined by that title shot. No, she really hasn't. She has a classic problem in women's MMA, which is she is an athletic woman, and she's probably about the only athletic woman in her gym. And there's just no concept of her training against people who could help her develop her game really at all. And I go to Fighter Pay as a problem for this. And it's basically clear, like her wins are all against people who cannot compete with her or have to bring the fight to her. Jillian Robertson, Maria Borello, Yanan Yu, Stephanie Egger, Lena Landsberg. They all have to bring the fight to her, and that's when she can do cool things or outgun them in the case of Yu when she won a decision. Even Holly Holm, that win was essentially, before it was no contested for the ADHD medication, was her losing at range, getting, not getting worked horrendously badly or anything, but, facing the face that a lot of Holly Holm opponents have, which is not being able to compete with her, and then Holm deciding that, the clinch would be a good idea and getting tapped. Even her crowning moment against the only fighter she has beaten with a range game is about Holly Holm making mistakes. Anyways, enough about her. She lost here. I don't know what to do. It's probably too late. Everything's probably hard-boiled into her game. But it's depressing. Josh Hockett versus Max Jimenez went about what I expected. It was weird because people were talking about how Hockett was going to out-wrestle and out-grapple Jimenez. I'm like, why bother? Just punch him. He's got no defense. None whatsoever. He is not a functional striker at all. And he did. And there you go. Knocked Jimenez down multiple times and got the finish. Called out Walter Walker afterwards with a pro wrestling style Chael Sonnen promo. I've said it, and this is a conversation, is the Hockett gimmick at all good? And the answer is no. He's not good at he doesn't have pro wrestling charisma, is what it comes down to. If I wanted to see this, I would go watch pro wrestling. That's kind of all there is to it. Tisha Pennington let me down a little bit against Denise Gomes. It was a fight that I obviously picked Pennington in and regretted. I don't want to say immediately. It was competitive. Don't get me wrong. It was competitive outside of the third round. Gomes really got her way in the third round when her wrestling started taking effect and was able to do stuff. I guess the question coming out of this fight essentially boils down to, is Gomes really kind of arriving, or is it Pennington heading out the door, or is it a bit of both? And I probably think it's a bit of both. Gomes is fighting well and doing a good job, so 2 thumbs up there. But, I don't know, Pennington looked flat. It's just, it's got to be one of her least active fights of all time here. Out of curiosity here. Hang on. Let me see. She landed 58 significant strikes. To find a fight where she landed less, you have to go back to the Sam Hughes stoppage win. And then before that, it's the Marina Rodriguez and Weili Zhang fights. And Yoni and Jacek fights where she was just outclassed. So, yeah, it's concerning, I think, is what it comes down to. I don't know. Maybe it's just an off night. But I do want to say congratulations to Denise Gomes. This is a big win for her. This is on paper a very solid win. She's won 4 in a row now over Eduarda Mora, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Elise Reed, and Tisha Pennington. She's actually building some momentum here. And those wins all kind of have some level of asterisk beside them. But, knocking out Bruna Brazil's also pretty cool. And, the Howard Gui fight, Howard Gui is a weird mess of cold starting, but yeah, she's doing a good job, and it's fantastic to see, I suppose. I will say, apparently a judge gave Mayra Bueno Silva a round. Chris Lee, what are you doing? Which round? And why? Because basically, it's got to be the second round, actually. I shouldn't say even which round, because it's definitely the second round, where the strike difference was at least in the single digits. If you gave the first or the third to MBS, you you should lose your license. Although Chris Lee should have lost his license as a judge long ago. My thoughts on him are pretty up there. Daniel Marcos with the weird Tapology fight of the week, because somehow he ended up in the top 10 at bantamweight on their rankings off of beating Miles Johns, ahead of Montel Jackson, who beat him. It's a bit weird. It was a good fight for Marcos, but it was the standard Miles Johns performance, honestly, where Miles Johns is just very, very, very meat and potatoes, very basic. So anybody who has close to physical parity with him and the ability to create, the ability to be dynamic, the ability to break tempo even, have a pretty easy time with him, and that was Marcos here. Marcos was able to get some surprisingly easy takedowns and eventually get a rear naked choke, out-grapple Johns. I don't know what else to say. It's a Miles Johns fight where he gets finished. I guess that's kind of new because doesn't generally get finished. I mean, he got tapped by John Castaneda and got knocked out with a flying knee by Mario Bautista, but yeah. It's another case of like Miles Johns with proper coaching. Man, would he be really good. And instead he has corner advice that is bad. And I imagine the game planning advice and the technical training advice is also bad. So congratulations, Daniel Marcos. Big fan. Tapology, apparently a bigger fan. Zach Reese versus Jackson McVeigh. This was I didn't know what to expect of this fight because Reese took this fight on very, very short notice. So obviously that means that it's kind of unpredictable what is going to happen. And Jackson McVeigh came out and he was Jackson McVeigh. I'm going to force the clinch. I'm going to be very active. I'm going to beat you up in the clinch and I'm going to do my thing. And the problem is that was absolutely working. But it was very, very obvious that Zach Reese could pretty much get takedowns at will. And eventually he gets him down and he finishes him in the second round with the rear naked choke doing his thing. Because Reese is, like I said, the reason I picked him is Reese, for as clumsy as he is, and as raw as he is, and as undercooked as he is as a technician, is a physical fighter. He is a UFC level powerful athlete for the middleweight division. McVeigh just isn't. I appreciate McVeigh's effort. I appreciate his heart. I appreciate that he is doing the only thing that could possibly lead to victories. So this is no hate on him. But he's not good enough. He's not athletic enough. It's not really fixable. And this does mean that Zach Reese continues to beat guys who are not really UFC caliber. He also has that win over Jose Medina and then the win over Julian Marquez, who by the time he knocked him out was not really a UFC caliber fighter anymore. So there is that. And otherwise, it's losses to Cody Brunridge, to Azamat Bakoyev, a no contest with Cedric Dumas for kicking him in the dick. And I guess he did beat Duško Todorovic, who is kind of a functional UFC middleweight. But when beating Duško Todorovic is your highlight, I have concerns. And you didn't finish him. Which neither did Hobokop, I guess I should say. But I don't know. Todorovic's durability is like Schrodinger's cat every single fight. It's a bit bizarre. Anyways, on the bonus front, we had bonuses for Gabriel Bonfim, makes sense. Christian Leroy Duncan, not who I would have given it to, but a good performance nonetheless. Josh Hockett, it's a weird one because I don't think Hockett's win means anything, but it was impressive. It is a dominant stoppage win, and you got to give respect to that. It's just Mac Jimenez is not a functional UFC fighter. And Zach Reese, see the Hockett one. Although Reese, I guess I have a little bit more time for it because of the short notice nature of him taking the booking. So I don't really object to the attaboy there for Reese. But yeah, I would have given one to Padilla. Just not even with the sub story. I just think that him beating Ismail Bonfim meant a lot more, and also Uros Medic probably should have gotten one as well. Maybe even Joe Morales. So yeah, that's kind of the problem. That's why I would probably not have given Christian Leroy Duncan that one. It's a good performance, don't get me wrong. And same with Gabriel Bonfim, but there was a lot of dominance on this card. And as a result, the competition for the bonuses, I believe the commentary said, was like very fierce. They were not wrong. Like a lot of these stoppages don't necessarily mean a ton. Like Morales beating Matt Schnell doesn't mean much. Medic beating a 40-plus-year-old Salikov might not mean much. Padilla beating Bonfim, who has a tendency to fold, might not mean much. But they were impressive nonetheless. And I think only 4 fights went to decision. So that is not bad. So for what it was, UFC Apex 111 was pretty solid, pretty okay. And hopefully we get better than that at UFC 322 with Jack Della Maddalena defending against Islam Makhachev and Valentina Shevchenko defending against Weili Zhang. Those are both interesting fights, although I think unfortunately kind of dominated by like the same dynamic. And then Sean Brady versus Michael Morales, Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates, Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis. And those are all in their own way actually very important and very cool fights. So looking forward to that. Any gem on the undercard that maybe needs to get a little bit of love? I am very interested in the Cody Haddon versus Malcolm Wellmaker fight, but knowing our luck, it's probably just going to be Wellmaker boinking the guy. And it's just like, I still don't know if Wellmaker is all that good or if he's just really, really potent as a puncher. I do hope, if nothing else, Cody Haddon takes him a little deeper and we get to see some actual skill sets from Wellmaker. That would be ideal. Otherwise, a lot of love for Fatima Klein, so we'll go with that, I suppose. But I don't know, this undercard is underwhelming. But, people will be here for the Bo Nickel versus Rodolfo Vieira fight. Anyways, that is what I got for you. Check out the links down below. I will see you next time, and have a lovely, lovely November. It's snowing here, so brace yourselves / enjoy yourselves. It depends on how you love the winter, I suppose.